Bill Gates said, "I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." What's a real-life example of this? Story 1. So I was sitting on my bed, FaceTiming someone. I was really craving candy but didn't want to get up to go get some. I had a gift bag with candy in my room, but I couldn't reach it without getting up. I remembered that I had a 3-foot wooden pole in my bed frame. Don't ask why. I grabbed the pole and used it to get the bag up to my bed. It worked, and the only thing that the person I was talking to said was "wow" while face-palming. Story 2. My brother. He's the maintenance guy of the house for this reason. Can fix anything from your computer right down to ACs and stuff within the actual house. Because of his unbridled love for YouTube. At first, we thought it was just because he has a love for computers and tech that he shares with older bro. But nope, not just that. It's 'cause Mama YouTube has been guiding the guy all day long like the Yoda to his Luke Skywalker. Story 3. My new job, fiber splicing. After we finish up, we have to coil the tubes back into the vault, except it wants to bend a certain way. Normally, you have to jump in and spin with it so it circles around you. I found a way to coil it faster. Leave one of the slabs on the vault door, there are 2, and as you push the coil in, the slab acts as a guide by keeping it from springing outward. My boss didn't even think of this trick. Story 4. Got hired to do marketing for a company. Proceeded to automate the entire ads, lead generation, emails, and data entry systems within the first 2 weeks. Lost the job because I made myself redundant and showed them how to manage the systems, which I made very easy to manage. Don't be too smart and too nice was the lesson I learned. This happened twice. I literally have to bottle cap myself or else I will lose jobs to myself. Story 5. Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. Rather than actually create new policies on police oversight, she painted BLM on the stupid street. BFD. Do some actual work like make some policy outlawing choke holds, outlawing turning off body cameras, outlawing shooting people in the back, outlawing no-knock murders of innocent people. By accident, Breonna Taylor's murderers are still not charged. Thanks for nothing, Mayor of D.C. Story 6. At an old job, we had ton bags of aggregates in the yard. If any were damaged, the standard procedure was to shovel the entire contents into a new bag. By hand. Fuck that. We'd plug the rip/hole with tape and shrink wrap, then slowly hoist the bag with a forklift. Then have 2 guys hold a fresh bag open beneath the damaged one and slice the base open. 1 metric ton of building materials rebagged in under a minute. Story 7. At my job we do a lot of data entry and mundane tasks, so I downloaded a recorder called Tiny Task, with approval from IT, and I record the keystrokes of the first one and set continuous playback for the rest so my computer does the work for me. It doesn't work for every situation, and I still have to pay attention that it doesn't mess up or so I can stop it at the end, but I take advantage of every item that I can. Story 8. Finally something I can answer. At my job, we have to watermark product photos. That's easy, but when you have to edit 4,000 photos at a time it will take forever. So, I downloaded BlueStacks and got an app that can add watermarks. With BlueStacks, you can create click sequences at specific times and set it on repeat. I just set the sequence to watermark each photo and within a day it was completed. I felt so smart. Story 9. Not sure if this counts, but a while back a family friend offered me a couple $100 to paint an apartment in a complex he owned so I could get a little extra spending money. I offered my brother, who also needed money, geek job for $150. He said yes, and did it, and I pocketed the rest and did nothing. My brother had no idea the guy paid me $300 and I paid him $150. So I made $150 for doing absolutely nothing. Story 10. I work at a company which, despite having a 100+ employees, Doesn't seem to have one that knows more than basics when it comes to computers. Due to the pandemic, we've all taken up some chores to clock some hours. They've got me retyping PDF read-only files to a new Word file. Thus far, they haven't figured out you can just export a PDF file to .doc in Acrobat. But my schedule is now 1/3 cleared to do typing work. Story 11. I knew the guy who invented the pregnancy test. He was an older scientist at the lab I worked at in my 20s. According to him, he was a lazy grad student that got tired or testing if his research mice were pregnant the old way. He started testing their pee and found a chemical indicator. Of course, his PI realized the potential, university sold it, he got an attaboy and a dose of how business of science works. Story 12. I am presently printing and wiring a safety switch that will disable my lathe when the chuck key is removed. It is a rule that the chuck key will never be in the chuck whilst any other activity is occurring other than tightening the chuck. Whilst I have never yet forgotten to remove the key, I decided that to ensure it is never left in the chuck, the machine will never start with the key removed from the switch. Story 13. A workmate was complaining about his other job, saying how they have to count a bunch of these little screw-like things, and how there were thousands of them. I looked at him and the conversation went something like this: just weigh them. What? Just weigh them. If they're all identical, then weigh them and divide the weight of them all by the weight of one, and bam, you got your number. Wow, that's so obvious. Story 14. When I was deployed, I got stuck on night shift desk duty for our HQ. During monsoon season, everyone's boots tracked in huge chunks of mud, so I was always sweeping, but it was never enough. Finally, I managed to get an RC car, named it Alfred like Batman's butler, through Amazon, attached the brush end of a broom, and used that to push all the dirt into a pile. From there I'd sweep it into the pan and toss it. Story 15. I work in a clothing store. In today's climate, anything someone tries on, I have to remove from the floor for 2 days. I have 2 5-shelf organizers to put the clothing, each with a sign signifying the days left until it can be returned to the floor. I walked into work with one of my employees moving all items from 2-day rack to the 1-day rack. The next day, I showed them you can just switch the paper signs. Story 16. Code generators, enterprise schedulers, etc. My boss thinks I'm the perfect balance of creative and lazy. I'm actually hardworking, but I will look for an easier way to do everything. I have had bosses in the past who didn't believe I completed tasks. BC, I figured out how to do them much faster than anticipated. More recently, we backfilled a highly skilled position with automation and process improvement. Story 17. I used to animate graphics for those LED signs at certain popular fast food chains. There would sometimes be a library of 80 to 126-second videos that need resized or scaled down. I figured out how to make a system macro that memorized some of my mouse clicks and keyboard strokes, and it automated a previously 4-hour task into something I could hit one button and start sketching out ideas for other projects. Story 18. A computer technician I know is the administrator of an application that monitors the performance of computers. He went from paying attention to 10K computers to only watching 250 executive computers. At first, he was angry, but then he realized that he worked from home and only had 250 computers to monitor. Suddenly, he realized that watching the top 250 officers of a corporation was not a bad thing. Story 19. I tried doing that as a kid and got a slap on the back of the head. It was just my dad and I. We both hated doing the dishes, so they would stockpile. It got to the point where he offered to pay me $20 just to do them. Before I got around to it, we went down the road to my aunt's. I ended up offering my cousin $10 if he would come over and do the dishes. He accepted. I wasn't allowed to do that again. Story 20. Order takeout at a certain restaurant. We have stickers that say who put the order together, phone number of the restaurant, name of the order and car type. We had to handwrite the phone number 1,000 times a month by hand, so I just bought a stamp. Can easily get so many stickers done in a small amount of time and it looks professional. Corporate came in and for something so simple their jaws dropped. Story 21. I once read a comment of a man who just made some kind of program in fucking Microsoft Excel to answer almost every mail he got, put together all of his documents, gather the needed data, and process it. This man literally came to work, opened up Excel, pressed start or whatever, and he just drank some coffee for the rest of the day. I can't find the whole story, but I think it was a comment on this sub. Story 22. I used to work in finance as the low woman on the totem pole, and one of my tasks was to manually reconcile trades. And it was boring AF. Everyone else in the department was older, so they were used to doing everything manually. I basically taught myself how to use macros in Excel, wrote one that would reconcile the trades, and eventually took what was 4+ hours of work and turned it into 15 minutes of work. Story 23. I was supposed to find out for an organization of 700 people if they needed new batteries for their laptops. All had Windows 10 and were set up on a domain. Set up a GPO to push out a PowerShell script to give me reports to a folder. Spent few hours reading reports and was able to tell them how many batteries they needed instead of contacting each individual person. Had about a week to screw around. Story 24. I'm probably going to get downvoted for this, but Bill Gates never said that. That being said, software automation. My job is literally to write code so that I or other people don't have to do it manually. I got into this without any programming experience. It was my sheer laziness that drove me to start writing code to do things that I didn't want to do anymore. And that led me to my current job.